Joining us now, she's coming off obviously in a great career where she was an all Big Ten performer in her 1 year at Michigan after coming over from North Carolina, where she was a multiple time all ACC performer. A tremendous resume in her career. We're speaking of course, Kristina Burkhardt, who is the second Burkhardt to come on the show in recent months there. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. How are you?
Good. I have to ask you this. Obviously, we talked briefly, texted messages after the news went down last week with Coach Hutch retiring, announcing the retirement. What was your reaction when that all came out? Did you see it coming at all? Were you blindsided? What was your reaction?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, we kind of had like speculation throughout the season that like maybe this would be Hutch's last year, but then once season ended, she didn't retire. So we're like, oh no, she's sticking it out. And then yeah, I was actually in complete shock when I found out the news when it happened. So yeah, I feel like at some point I was like maybe, but yeah, it's total surprise.
Yeah, I remember back in the regionals in Orlando, she was pretty emotional. In fact, you were there in the final, as it turns out now, the final post-game press conference. You'll get to say you were at the last final post-game press conference with Hutch, and she was emotional. And I think some people maybe wondered about that, but as you mentioned, there's a few months past, we were like, all right, well, it's just just the times there. Just kind of take me through that moment in that regional because that was the end of your career. You were emotional too because you knew you were done. Did you think at that moment, as you're sitting with Hutch, hey, this could be the last time Hutch is doing this, not just me?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us that was kind of like why we were playing this season like two was for Hutch because like there were just some times where like we're like is this her last year, and if it is, like we want it to be like the best year she's ever had. And she kept saying this past year she was like, I just want to love team 45. Like I don't care about the wins, the losses, I just want to love team 45. And kind of hearing that, we were like, all right, yeah, like we are gonna do this for Hutch. Like because it could have been like we didn't make it like the forefront of our season because like there were each other and like games that we had to play. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, the amount of emotion I felt my last game, I wasn't thinking like this might be the last time I would be sitting like here with Hutch and watching her do a press conference. But I mean, it was the last for me. And so there was that like definite emotion there as well. And yeah, I now that you mentioned it, I actually feel pretty honored that I was in the last press conference with Hutch after that regional. So yeah.
I think everybody that was in that presser, myself included, was covering that. I think we all feel the same way there. You obviously made a decision as a grad student to come to Michigan. I remember I talked to you before the season that, playing for Hutch was a part of that. Like you wanted to coach. So what was it like now that you've had a little time to reflect in your 1 year being coached by Hutch?
Pretty surreal. I never would have, imagined me playing for Hutch. I remember watching her, obviously coach, for a long time, especially when Ashley was at Purdue. Like I went to like the games against Michigan, and I just like couldn't take my eyes off of like Hutch coaching like third base. I was like, wow, this woman's tough. Like it's pretty intimidating. But I could see like in her dugout how much respect her players had for her. So I was just like, I was just kind of like in awe. So never would I have thought that I'd have an opportunity to play for her. And so yeah, that kind of like geared my decision to coming to Michigan because I was just like, I have 1 year left. I want to make it a great one. And I think Hutch playing for Hutch and that coaching staff was honestly like the best decision that I could have made.
Obviously, Coach Bonnie will take over, been promoted. What's your thoughts on that, and what does she bring there as obviously coaching with the program? Has been with the program for a long time.
I think I am so happy for her. I think there's no more deserving person than Bonnie. Like she's put so much into this program, just as much as Hutch and Biggie have, and I think she can take this program into like a new level. She has so much insight for this game, and she knows how to like talk to you one on one in a personal level. Like she's always like wondering how you're doing, not only as a softball player but as a person, and I think that's huge for coaching staffs. And I there were times during the season where like it seemed like she was kind of like running practice a little bit more than like Hutch would in some days of the week. And so I think that was kind of like their like wanting her to like prepare for this position. And so I mean she's coached under Hutch for years. but I'm excited to see kind of like what she also brings like new as a head coach. And I think this was a great decision for Michigan, and I'm just excited to see where she takes the program.
What are the differences, or if there are differences, that you see in Coach Bonnie's style versus Hutch style?
I think Bonnie is a little less intimidating. She kind of like she loves bringing you one on one to talk about like different things that she sees, whether it was like in the game or the practice. So she's very good on like the individual level. And I would say like Hutch is very good at like motivating like big groups. And so that's a difference. But they both worked with infield, with outfield, with hitting. And they know like they would bring up different points with like within my swing or like other my teammates swing. So like they bring like their own like knowledge with them, but like coaching styles, I would just say Bonnie is more like of an individual level. And Hutch kind of was just like knew how to like bring a crowd and like motivate an entire crowd. So
That's an understatement. The thing that impressed me about her is how intense she was on the field at that third base. She
mhm.
did not look like she was slowing down anytime soon. Did you all pick up? I mean, sense that intensity, that passion that she still had.
I mean, like I had only played obviously for a year under her, so I didn't really have anything to like base it off of. But yeah, I mean, every pitch was some type of emotion, and like plays that we made, whether they were like little or small, it honestly seemed like sometimes she was the one that got like the most excited. And so, I mean, it's cool to see when you're on the field and seeing your coaches like celebrate for you because I don't know, it gives you more confidence. And so I'm grateful that she never lost passion or never lost intensity because it kind of just made me a better player, in my opinion.
How long did it take you to kind of adjust and adapt to Coach Hutch's style? You mentioned earlier you could be a little intimidating. How long did it take you to kind of adjust to that?
Not long, actually. I mean, coming in, I was like, wow, like I'm only gonna be here for a year. Like, I hope everyone likes me. But she kind of made it pretty seamless because of how much she wanted to get to know me as a person. And she didn't let just me being here for a year really like stop her from getting to know me because I mean, like once you're a part of this program, no matter how many years, like you're a part of it for life. And I really felt that from her and the coaching staff like as soon as I like committed honestly. And so it was a pretty seamless transition in my opinion, and I honestly I thank the coaches for that entirely.
What are a couple things you're going to take with you the rest of your whatever ways we'll get into later what you will be end up doing next and things like that. What are you going to take from your year with Hutch and her guidance that will take you to the next step, whatever that is?
I think what I'm going to take the most is having confidence in yourself as a woman. She didn't just develop you as a player; she developed you as a leading woman. And I think, my leadership style for all of college really was kind of just like lead by example. But I felt like this year I kind of was able to step up a little bit in a vocal standpoint, just because I was seeing her motivate all the people around me, and it kind of just inspired me to want to do the same. And so I probably still will be a lead by example type of person, but having known Hutch and seeing the impact that she's had on so many, like I want to do the same. And like she invested in me as a person, and that's kind of what I want to take into my next career.
Speaking with Kristina Burkhardt here on In the Circle. Let's kind of start. How did you get involved playing softball? Let's kind of start at the beginning. How did you get involved playing softball? We'll talk about Ashley too. 'Cause I'm fascinated with that dynamic. But first, how did you get involved, interested in playing softball, and then end up eventually going to North Carolina?
Yeah, it definitely did start with Ashley. She was kind of the guinea pig of the family, and my dad, coached her for a little while, and every tournament that they went to, I wanted to go to. I don't even think I was playing softball yet at that point, but I wanted to go. And so I would just sit in the dugout. These girls were like 8 years older than me, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, I felt like I was the loudest one in the dugout, honestly. Like I was with them cheering, and so I kind of got into softball more first in the behind the scenes part, which I think kind of relates to the passion that I have for it now, and like why I am the player that I am today, because sitting there and like watching my sister and her teammates play for all those years, I felt like I picked up on like things that you like wouldn't necessarily pick up if you just kind of like threw into like just started playing right away. So I feel like my softball IQ kind of benefited from just wanting to just be around the sport and just watching older girls play in front of me. So yeah, I definitely have to give credit to Ashley for the wisdom that she's taught me over the years, and kind of letting me pave my own way though. Like I think the biggest thing for her and I was obviously she had all the success playing softball, but she didn't want that to take away from my success. So we had a lot of conversations about how like I would be paving my own way. Obviously, I wouldn't be the player I am today without her, but I didn't want to be following directly in her footsteps. So that kind of resulted into my decision to going to North Carolina. I didn't want to stay close to home because Purdue was only about 2 hours from where we grew up, and it was fantastic. Like I got to like go watch her play and everything. So during my recruiting process, I was like, I think I want to go far. Like I want to develop on my own as a person, as a student, as an athlete. And so when North Carolina came into play, I was immediately intrigued. And just their tradition, their legacy as well. Like that was just something that I was like, that would be a great program to be a part of. And went on a few visits and I completely fell in love with the area. I think Chapel Hill is one of the most beautiful campuses on in the country. Michigan a very close second. But but yeah, so I had a lot of different things going in my head because I was like, well, I could go to Purdue. Like that's where Ashley was. She loved it. People call her the mayor of Purdue because of how involved she was. So I know I would love it there. But she like I give her so much credit for letting me kind of like be the player that I formed myself into. And yeah, I definitely am grateful that I picked North Carolina.
So it reminds me a little bit of the Manning brothers, where Peyton kind of went against the family tradition, went to Tennessee, seriously, right? Created his own deal. It sounds like it's similar. It's nothing against Purdue, nothing against Ashley, but you kind of wanted to have your own identity and experience something different.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate the comparison to the Manning.
Like that, Peyton there. Hopefully she, I don't know if she'll like the comparison, but like, describe your run at Carolina, because you had a heck of a career there, multiple-time All ACC performer. You're on the record books there in a lot of categories offensively. You experienced postseason there as well. Just describe the experience there.
Yeah, I had a great experience there. I definitely can say that I wouldn't be the player that I am, especially with outfield, if I didn't go to North Carolina. I think Coach P really just she formed my success in the outfield because of how much she was passionate about that. And that was another reason why I chose North Carolina, was because, I love offense and I love hitting, but I think defense and the outfield, that I'm biased. Like I think that's the best position to play on the field. And, Coach P was an outfield coach. And so I was like, I want to work with her. And so, coming in as a freshman, obviously, like you've never played college before, you're just adjusting. And I thought those coaches were great. I felt like I belonged right away, and the team felt very close, and we got to work. And I probably had done more outfield drills in my first fall there than I think I ever did in the span of my softball career at that point. And I was just like, wow, okay. But I knew that I had like talent in the outfield, but I think going through those drills and working at it every single day, and Coach P instilling the confidence in me, is why I am where I am today. And so, those 5 years were awesome. I wouldn't say every year was easy. There were some years where we didn't even make postseason. So those were some challenging years. But you kind of have to go through those to develop who you are as a team and as a player. So I wouldn't take any of that back. I went through some injuries too. My freshman year, I redshirted because I broke my hand, and that was kind of devastating because it was my first year, and I was so excited to play, like center field and in that starting role. And then I think it honestly was like my third weekend, I broke my hand and I was out for the season. So I had to go through some, different role mentalities there. But again, I I would have like the insight that I have, knowing how each player is just as important as, starters. Like those bench players, like me not being able to contribute that one year, like it was hard, but we are just as important as the nine that are out there, right? Like contributing onto the field, because we're the voice. We see things that they might not see. And so I really had like a different perspective on the bench that freshman year. So yeah, it sucked. I didn't want to be on the bench, but I think it was something that I needed, and it kind of carried me through the rest of my years there in at Michigan. So yeah, it was a crazy ride, but I had so much fun at North Carolina, and I miss it. So
It's pretty remarkable. You're not many could say they went to school at the two institutions like a North Carolina and a Michigan with such rich history as a university, and two legendary coaches that know what it takes to win some games there. I mean, have you thought about that? Have you like, wow, fortunate to have not only play a year with Coach Hutch, but Coach also Papa as well?
yeah, I actually think about that almost every day. And like everyone tells me, they're like, seriously, like you went to UNC and Michigan, like not many people can say that they did that. And I was like, I know, like I don't even know how to put it into words. Because I don't know how it happened. Like I never would have thought that I'd have 6 years to play, let alone a year at Michigan. And so yeah, I'm grateful for softball and the opportunities that it's given me.
What led the decision to when you had the opportunity for grad school? I remember academics played a role what Michigan could offer and things. Just take me through that process when you made the decision. A, I want to continue to play, and then B, hey, let me see what's out there.
Yeah, I was very scared. I'll be honest. After I think our last, I think it was the ACC tournament, my 5th year at UNC. I was just like, well, I need to make the decision. I need to decide if one, I'm even playing softball again, and two, if I'm gonna, play my 6th year at UNC or go somewhere else. And I had thought about it that whole year, my last year at UNC, but I didn't want it to be the forefront, because I was like, I still needed to complete my last season at UNC, and I didn't want like that, like take away any of that. So I really didn't think much of where I was gonna go, which kind of made the transfer portal process a little bit stressful that summer after I graduated at UNC, because I didn't know where I wanted to go. I knew when I did decide that I wanted to keep playing, I was like, well, there's a lot of things that I could put at the top of my list and my priorities. And honestly, like Hutch Hutch laughs at me today because I never went on a visit to Michigan before I committed. And she's just like, yeah, you're like probably like one of the only people I've ever recruited that's never wanted to come see Michigan. And I was like, well, like I was only going to be playing for a year, so I'll be honest, like facilities really wasn't at the top of my priorities. I was going to be there for a year. I was more intrigued with like the culture and the program itself rather than like what it like facilities it had to offer. So that's why I never went on visits, at least that one summer. And so it was a pretty intimidating process because you're only dedicating 1 year, so you want to make sure it was a good one. And I had talked to a few other schools before Michigan even like had interest in me. And so then when they did, I was like, oh crap. I was like, I kind of want to see this through. So, and I wanted to be as upfront with the other schools as possible. So like I called them and I was just like, I'm still interested, but I feel like I need to see this through. And they respected it. And I'm very grateful for that. And so the more I talked to Hutch, the more I talked to Bonnie, and then some other players, who actually Taylor Bump is like one of my best friends now. So that's kind of ironic. That's who I spoke to about, me potentially playing at Michigan. And so, yeah, then I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think I'll ever have the opportunity to play for Hutch, or I would never have the opportunity to play for Hutch if I don't do it right now. And I think that would just be kind of like the way to cap off my career, is to play under her and that coaching staff. And yeah, I don't look back. That was probably the best decision I could have ever made. So
That's pretty remarkable. You never visited the campus.
yeah. Nope.
Like, so what was it like when you first stepped on campus after you've committed? So at that point, there's no point of return.
Nope, none. Yeah, so I mean, it's very different to Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill is just trees, brick, like it's just like it's a pretty campus. And I'm not like Michigan's a pretty campus as well, but like there's on campus housing, like with houses, like I've never experienced that. And like I got on the softball field and like it's right next to the baseball stadium, and it was just kind of like a wow factor. And so I was like, okay, I think I made the right decision. um, but I mean, it was still great to see everything, but again, like I wouldn't have been picky on what I had because I just wanted to play one more year. So
I was curious, once you make the decision, did Ashley try to give you advice as somebody who has played in the Big Ten to see, hey, this is what it's like in the Big Ten? Did you seek that advice? Or did she kind of leave you alone and just kind of become a supportive, just want to be a support?
a little bit of both. I think if I hadn't have reached out and asked about some things, I'm sure she would have, as time went on, just given me some advice. But the first thing she did say was, it's going to be cold. And I was like, yeah, not used to that either. So no, but she kind of did kind of take a step back. She was just like, you've been playing already for 5 years. Like you have the experience. You've played for the ACC. The Big Ten is just as good as the ACC. So there really wasn't much for her to say. But as like the games went on, she gave me like a little bit of snippets, and I'm really grateful for that. So
Now, ironically, of course, this happens a lot. ACC and Big Ten teams play all the time. But Michigan made a trip back to North Carolina, where Hutch actually broke the wins record at Duke in the tournament. And then later in the midweek played North Carolina and Chapel Hill. How strange was that for you to come back?
it actually wasn't as strange as I thought. I obviously like left on great terms with the coaches and the players. And so it kind of just felt like a welcome home. But it also felt like, my time in North Carolina, it it had ended, and it was kind of like Michigan was my next chapter. So it wasn't like I felt like I was missing out on the other side of the dugout at UNC. It was kind of just like I'm here with my new team, and they get to experience kind of what it was like to play at UNC. And yeah, as soon as we practiced there the day before we played, and so I got to see Coach P and Coach MJ, and like MJ gave me like the biggest hug, and it was just really like nice being back, because that's also like my forever home. And I saw like some new things that they'd done to like the stadium. So I was really glad Hutch did it. Hutch told me that she says that she planned that trip before I committed, but then when we played there, she goes, actually, I did it after you committed. I was like, ha, I knew it. So yeah.
Oh, like that's funny. Did you play Michigan when you were at Carolina?
Yeah, I played them 4 times, I think. So I think my junior year and then my true senior year, they came for the ACC Big Ten tournament. So I actually did play against the girls that I played with this year. So
How wild is that? You go from you played against Michigan, and then you go and play against North Carolina. You've been on both sides. How it's so wild there. That's kind of that's. I feel like whenever there's some jokes in there somewhere or something with both sides there. Like you're.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And well, I would joke with the girls on Michigan, because when I play against people, like I don't know if it's because I'm way in the outfield or what, but like I'm just not good with face recognition. And I guess neither were they either, because they were like, we played against you guys, but like I don't remember you. And I'm like, well, I didn't remember you guys either. So like obviously like I played against them, but I just remember the game itself, not exactly like who did what. But I do remember we were warming up, and I think Michigan was playing Louisville the game before us, and I watched Lauren Essman hit a moonshot the game before, and I just was like, wow. And then turns out I'm her teammate the next, or like a few years later. So yeah, it was a full circle moment for sure.
Small world.
Yeah.
By the way, you went 1 for 3 against North Carolina in that
Mhm.
victory. Just to point that out. I definitely want to get you and Ashley back on the pod. Has she had you on her show yet?
Yes. Yeah.
How was that? What was it like being on her podcast and her interviewing you?
It was awesome. I mean, Ashley and I, obviously, since we're sisters, it seems like the conversation, was just a conversation, honestly. Like, it really didn't seem like we were on a podcast. It was just like we're in our living room. We're just, talking about softball, something that we're both passionate about. So I love being on it. I hope to be back on it for other topics that she has. But I mean, watching her kind of grow in her career in this podcast is so awesome to see, because I was actually working for her the summer she, decided to like launch the podcast. So like we had brainstormed some ideas and what the podcast was gonna be called, and like who we were gonna have on, like who she wanted on it. And so it's kind of cool to see like it actually like in real time now, and I'm so proud of her.
That's why I didn't know you were helping her out with the podcast stuff. That's pretty good. Who helped get Hutch on the show?
Well, Ashley, I think, did most of it. I mean, Hutch was like, your sister's trying to get me on this podcast. I was like, well, you should do it. And so, yeah, they've been, I mean, the bond that my family has with Hutch now is kind of incredible. So, yeah.
It's so wild too, because obviously she played at Purdue, played against them and everything. But I could tell. I mean, they traveled all year to kind of support you. I mean, I met her in person in Orlando, which was a blast. That had to mean a lot to you, that they really took she took a lot of her schedule and the family to go see every game of your last year.
Yeah, I think that's what made this year so special for me. Only being 2 hours from home, like my family got to go to a lot of games, which in the past it was kind of like a trip to go see me out in North Carolina. So I mean, that this year was so special because not only like my family, my extended family got to come, some friends from high school got to see me play for the first time. And so this year like was just incredible to see how much support I really have. And I really felt that. So
Describe the audience, because you got to see Ashley up close and play. Describe the player that she was.
oh, goodness. Ashley was a remarkable player. Her softball IQ is second to none. And just watching how much passion she has, and she's more of an extrovert than I am. And so you can really see her passion on that field. And I loved watching her, because no matter the outcome for her, she didn't really care, because she was so in it for the team. And I mean, I could truly see that with her. And as like when she was more of an upperclassman, I could just see the relationship she had with like the freshmen, the sophomores. Like she truly was a leader. And that's what I wanted to be. I looked up to her in that aspect. And so just seeing her, now being able to like teach younger athletes kind of like the knowledge and the passion that she has, like it's so like even after she's done playing, like I still look up to her and how much passion she has for this game. So yeah, she's amazing.
I like this compliments, but we're gonna have to get you both on and see the competitive side of the two of you at some point, all right?
Oh
So you tell
no.
her. So you tell her that I want both of you on at some point down the road on that. What's your favorite softball moment of your career?
Oh my goodness. I am gonna have to say that my last at bat at Michigan, I hadn't hit a home run all year. And everybody kept, all year was just like, Kristina, we're just waiting for this home run. Like, we want you to hit a home run. And I'm like, guys, you can't force it out of me, because I'm not that strong. So it just got to happen, And I'm like, if it doesn't happen, like, whatever. And so I'm going into my last at bat. I don't even think I had a hit that game. So I was just trying to free my mind. I was like, whatever happens, try not to think about the fact that this might be my last at bat in Alumni Field and whatever. And yeah, all of a sudden I see like, the ball go off the bat, and I was like, wow, that was a dart. And it ended up going over the fence. And I mean, I looked back at my team and they were, oh my gosh, they were like so ecstatic. I've never seen like so many, like, I don't even know, like surprised, excited, faces in my entire life. So like running around the bases and seeing them all at home plate, and they were just like, finally. And then I got back in the dugout and they were like, we all swiped our yard card on you. Like, we knew you were going to do it. And so I think that was kind of like an awesome moment for me, just seeing like how much support my teammates had in me. And yeah, it was a pretty fairy tale ending at Alumni Field.
Against Minnesota there at home back there in the regular season. Pretty good moment. So now the question is, what's next for you?
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out. Obviously, I'm finishing my master's here in social work. So I'll definitely be in Ann Arbor for one more year. I haven't decided if I wanted to coach or not. Obviously, that's been like, in the back of my mind for years now, just because I don't want to leave the sport of softball, and I don't know where I would be without it. So why leave it? So, Coaching might be up there, but I definitely do know that I want to stick in sports. And that's kind of why I went to social work. I want to bring the mental health aspect into, athletics and college athletics and stuff like that. So, I still don't know exactly what I'll be doing, but that's kind of, what I would like to do.
Have you thought about joining us in the media like Ashley did?
Maybe. I don't know how well I do, but I mean, I'd give it a try if I had an opportunity.
I mean, she's doing great on herself. Although I'm trying to encourage her, like, you can get credentials. She's like, really? Like, and I remember I asked her in the regionals, it's like, do you want a credential to cover the region? It's like she thought about it, like, no, just gonna be a sister. I'm not wearing a media hat there, in Orlando there. Last thing before we let you go, how do you want people to remember you as a player when people bring you up, both in Chapel Hill and in Ann Arbor?
Oh, wow. I just think I would rather people remember me as, a teammate who, encouraged them, like brought confidence to somebody, and just like having like the relationships that I had with them one-on-one. Obviously, like, the wins, the losses, and the accolades are something, but I think I'd rather be remembered for the teammate that I was and the relationships that I had with my teammates. So.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your knowledge and talking to us and talking to us candidly, about Hutch. I mean, not many could say they've played for a legend like Coach Hutch. You have. You've also played for two legends, as a matter of fact. So, hey, congratulations on a great career. I was really privileged to watch you. I was excited to watch you in person, and certainly honored that not only I was there for, it turns out, Hutch's last game, but your last game. And thanks for everything on the field, and I wish you well off, and I'm glad you'll be staying around the sport. And we'll definitely have you and Ashley back on. That's an official invite, so you let her know that's got to happen here at some point.
All right, I'll call her right after this. So.
All right, Kristina. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.